go. And Jim is on your left. Kyle is on your right. This one could be a long one. But, you know, Jim, actually last round he was in the Band Company mirror, and he finished before our on-camera match finished.
Yep.
So
there are a couple of differences here in the lists. There a full play set of Lamphole Pacifists in Jim Davis's list versus 2 in Kyle's list. There are a couple copies of Thalia in the main deck of Jim's deck versus 2 main deck copies of Nissa and 2 main deck copies of Tireless Tracker. So a lot of the same elements, but a couple of those, whatever you want to call them, flex slots or so forth, they're a bit different between the 2 decks.
What I'm going to find interesting is it's not this weekend. It's next weekend. People are going to be looking for the mirror breaker. How to get ahead in the mirror. Now, we've seen some players like Emma Handy employ Archangel Avacyn to great effect. Now, in Jim's list, I don't have that card. In Kyle's?
1 copy in the main.
Okay. And that could play a huge role in things. We'll have to find out, as Kyle has taken a long time on his second turn, trying to figure out which route he is going to go. And this has to, you have to imagine, do with the lands.
Well, it's the lands, and if he's aware that Thalia is in Jim's deck, then that makes these sequences even more complicated.
It's a Lamphole Pacifist here for Kyle. The captain of Team Metagame Gurus will draw a card. Reflector Mage.
Reflector Mage. It's going to be good against some 3 or 4 mana creature down the line, I'm guessing. Don't want to ruin the ending for you. Just tuning in for the first time.
Davis looks like he does have a copy of Thalia in hand as well. And, you know, truthfully, maybe Thalia is the kind of card that could be a mirror breaker.
Seems excellent on the play in the mirror. Sized the right way to attack, and very disruptive to the instant speed collected companies. Not to mention the lands.
There is Thalia Heretic Cathar. 3/2 first striker. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponent controls. Not you, your opponent. They enter the battlefield tapped. It'll be turn number 3 here for Kyle Boggemes. Lumbering Falls. I was already going to enter tapped. Jim, thanks. That recruiter is going to enter the battlefield tapped. There we go. We'll head back Jim Davis's way. The nice thing here, and you mentioned this when we talked about it at the conclusion of the last round, the stats here on Thalia, 3/2 first strike. You can work your way through the Pacifist and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Reflector Mage, Sylvan Advocate before they hit 6 mana.
Yeah.
Spell Queller now. There are a lot of creatures that are commonly played, particularly in the mirror match, where a 3-power first striker lines up very, very well. And the tap effect, I mean, we laugh about the Dustwatch recruiter. It cuts off a double block.
Very true. It's immediately off the table now. And Davis will start by attacking with the Thalia. Boggemes has no good block, so he's going to fall down to 17. Now, it actually looks like Jim has the other copy of Thalia in his hand, so let's call that a dead card. The rest of the stuff looks pretty good. At least 1 Reflector Mage. He's going to play it. Has to take 1 to cast it. We'll see which creature he wants to bounce. Pacifist is out of here.
Yeah, I think it has to be the Pacifist because Davis trying to play a little bit of a tempo game here. Can't attack with the Reflector Mage next turn if the Lamphole Pacifist is in play, so. Familiar primarily with the SCG Tour. Davis, obviously the defending player champion, more famous of the two, but Kyle, a lot of Grand Prix and Pro Tour success. I believe a runner-up finish in Pro Tour San Diego many moons ago.
That is correct. Early part of this decade.
Yep. Very skilled player from the Michigan area.
Him being 9-1 is no accident. There's Tireless Tracker. He will get a clue from the Avamaya Coast. And that'll be his turn. So Davis will untap. He will draw a card. To note, he draws a Duskwatch Recruiter. Some mana issues here for Jim.
Yep, missing his 4th mana. But plenty of 3-mana spells to play. You can see a hand with another copy of Reflector Mage, a Spellcaller, a Bounding Krasis. Sometimes the Band Company Mirror does grind down to a halt, and it's the first person who can produce some sort of trump. But sometimes people just get beat up. Mm-hmm. You know, the creatures are very well sized. Some of them are very challenging to block, and certainly with Thalia, Jim does have a route here to play that kind of game.
Here come the Knuckleheads. Boggemes going to fall down to 12. Looks like Jim will take 1 yet again, fall down to 18. It's another copy of Reflector Mage. See you later, Tireless Tracker. Let's go over to Kyle.
I think Jim's preference there maybe was to sit on Spell Queller, but had to get the Tireless Tracker out of there. Also needed to cast a spell to prevent the Dustwatch Recruiter from flipping into a 3/3. That would allow Boggemes to more efficiently deploy his hand.
Yeah. I think that might be the big one there, is the ability to stop Kyle from deploying a lot of threats in one turn.
But fortunately, again, this is where Thalia is coming in. That Lamphole Pacifist that would be able to shut down the 2 Reflector Mages instead can't do anything this turn. So Jim is able to get in a lot of damage as a result of the Thalia, both because of the 3-power first striker that it is on the surface, and then slowing down Boggemes' ability to block.
Dromoka's Command the draw here for Davis. We'll see if he can continue to work on limited resources here.
The issue here is that if he casts something and Boggemes has Spell Queller, it's really bad. But he kind of has to cast something, because if Boggemes gets to untap and simply flip his werewolves, now all of a sudden Jim can't attack anymore, and Boggemes gets to deploy his handful of cards. So I think he is just kind of up against the wall here. Has to play around Spell Queller to the best of his ability, but there's only so much he can do because I think he has to cast something.
Time for the beatdowns.
I guess the alternative route is he could pass the turn here, hoping that Boggemes will take the opportunity to activate the Dustwatch Recruiter, and then there's a window to resolve your Dromoka's Command or whatever else you're trying to do. But if Boggemes doesn't take the bait, then all of a sudden the werewolves are flipped and you're still up against the wall against Spell Queller.
Oh, there's an attack for 7. Boggemes down to 5. Boggemes with a ton of cards in hand. We know that.
Yep.
Reflector Mage has been playing a role there.
As has Thalia. Very disruptive so far from Jim's side.
And all Jim will do is pass. Not willing to play a creature in his main phase. But to note, again, Jim does have a card like Bounding Crassus in his hand. He does have Dromoka's Command, so he can certainly play at instant speed here.
Yeah, I think Jim is really hoping this Dustwatch Recruiter gets activated, so he has a window to cast Dromoka's Command. That counts as a spell for the turn, so the werewolves don't flip, and his spell does not get tagged by Spell Queller.
Wow. It got activated.
Okay.
But these things are transforming right away.
I thought that was the window that Jim was going to take. We'll see what the setup is here.
Okay.
If he's trying to sit on his own Spell Queller, that makes some sense. But my issue with this line of play on the surface is just Jim can't attack anymore, so he has to do something. That might have been the best window to resolve an impactful spell and not worry about Spell Queller. Take care of the Lamphole Pacifist. Now the Dustwatch Recruiter doesn't flip, and any creature that Boggemes plays this turn enters the battlefield tapped because of Thalia. So you might be able to get the last 5 points across the finish line. I'm worried now from Jim's side that that's become a lot more complicated.
Well, it feels like to me he's got big plans for the Bounding Crassus.
That's probably correct.
Yeah.
But the issue there is Spell Queller is going to be very good in that spot.
Yep. There's a land. And it looks like Kyle's just going to pass his turn back. So now it's time for Davis to make a move. What's the move going to be? Tough to say.
Very awkward for your opponent who's been behind the whole game and now has -1 casting cost on his creature spells to play land number 6 and say go.
See Davis's hand. He does have Bounding Crassus, Spell Queller in his hand. Looks like he's going to go with the Crassus. We'll see if this will resolve or not. Seems like Davis doesn't expect it to with where he's played it. Well, he'll move it up towards the middle a little bit. Collected Company. Reflector Mage is at least in there for Kyle Boggemes. Bounding Crassus, Reflector Mage. Reflector Mage, I think, is going to take care of Thalia.
I'm sure Kyle would like to have at least a one-turn reprieve from Thalia so he can get his defenses set up here.
And the nice thing, actually, about the Crassus here is that he can untap target creature. So the Crassus untaps itself. Now he Spell Quellers to take care of the Bounding Crassus that Jim played, and now Jim will untap. 2 spells will be played, so those werewolves will flip back down. But now Jim's hand is almost forced to cast a Thalia, because if not, Kyle gets to just kind of do whatever he wants.
And he's got no attacks this turn. This is my concern with passing up on that window to cast your Mocha's Command. I think that because Boggemes has more mana, he was very likely to win a battle over instants, assuming both players had all their mana available. I think Jim may have had a window last turn where he could have resolved something impactful and not have to worry about Spell Queller or Collected Company into XYZ messing up his plans. Now he's behind on the board, can't attack, and his hand is choked because he's been missing land drops for so long.
Yeah, is there any catching up to be done? That's the question. I mean, lands are obviously an issue here for Jim and his ability, or inability, I should say, to cast multiple spells per turn. But I don't know if he can catch up from being this far behind now. And it's funny, Boggemes is only at 5. Jim's trying to figure out how the heck can I cross the finish line.
Well, you know, you look at Jim's Davis's list here. You look at the flex slots. Not a whole lot to do with flying. You know, sometimes Archangel Avacyn can be your route to get out of spots like this, but Jim's deck is primarily on the ground. He's only got his 4 copies of Spell Queller as flyers, and with Boggemes already having one of his own, that blocks one hypothetical one.
Here's your Mocha's Command. Put a counter on Reflector Mage, take care of Spell Queller, get your Bounding Crassus. You'll get a trigger from Bounding Crassus. It gets the opportunity to tap or untap something. Tap the Bounding Crassus, come across with the Reflector Mage, that's a 3/4. Maybe. With this attack, if Jim makes it, you're going to get a pretty fast double block, I think.
I think so, too. Kyle's got a pretty big edge in resources here. It's just an issue of not getting punked out of the game.
There's your double block.
I think you would see chump block before you see no blocks in this spot.
See which creature Jim wants to kill. Going to take down the Pacifist. Kind of shows just how good the Pacifist is in a spot like this.
Right. I think Davis's only hope of winning the game at this point is to squeeze across the last 5 points, and that's going to be sizing on the battlefield. So even though Dustwatch Recruiter's got a much more impressive power, Davis just needs to get the 3/3s off the battlefield.
Boggemes will start with a Tireless Tracker. A land will bring him a clue if he has one. He'll start by sacrificing the clue that he's got. So the tracker will get a counter, and Boggemes will draw a card. He'll play a Prairie Stream. There's the battlefield untapped, of course, because of all the basics out there. And now Sylvan Advocate, which is a 4/5. Boggemes got himself a clue from the tracker, and now here comes the Bounding Crassus. An attack I like a lot.
Yeah, with the size that he has on the battlefield, even if Jim Davis untaps and plays Reflector Mage, Davis still doesn't have profitable attacks. Once you're at that point, you can afford to send in something. I'm sure Boggemes would be thrilled to get a trade to just keep the battlefield clean. Also, if Davis takes 3, that's fine too.
Yep. Back to Jim Davis we go. Lumbering Falls, the land he's drawn. The tough thing for Jim this day is he just, for Jim this particular game, is just his inability to fully capitalize on Thalia on turn 3.
there's that issue. And now going forward, because he's out-mana'd, he's not going to be able to profitably Spell Queller because it's going to be his whole turn to pass with the available mana. Kyle will be able to Spell Queller and do other things. And Jim's behind right now, so he just has to cast things and hope it's not there. So Boggemes has, what you would call, I guess, Spell Queller advantage at this stage.
Duskwatch Recruiter is going to transform. Boggemes will draw a card. It's no longer about card advantage for Kyle because he's got that in spades. He's got a tracker going. He could actually Duskwatch Recruiter if he wants to. Now it's about kind of shoring up the holes to make sure he doesn't lose.
And it's possible this is why Kyle thinks he has such an edge in the mirror. He's got 2 main deck copies of Tireless Tracker and 2 main deck copies of Nissa. These are really powerful threats for going long, which often the Band Company mirror comes down to. Compare that to the Lamphole Pacifists and the Thalias. Jim is a little bit more beatdown oriented and looking to cement an edge early on in the game. The Band Company mirrors don't play like that very frequently. Sometimes they do, and we kind of almost saw a game like where that happened, but more often than not, it's about grinding down, accumulating cards, and beating someone with the leftovers. And Kyle's deck is almost pre-sideboarded in that respect with Tireless Tracker and Nissa in the main.
Quick update for you. Apparently Tom Ross is pretty happy about what's going on with all these Band Company decks. He wins again. He moves on to 10-1 now.
He beat Devin Kepke last round in a backup feature match. Devin Kepke also playing Bant Company, so Tom loves that matchup, and I'm assuming at this point he hasn't lost to it this weekend.
Here come the attackers. Bounding Crassus, Sylvan Advocate, which is a 4/5 with Vigilance, and the Crawlin' Horde Howler.
Nice.
It's a tough one.
Howler helps. That's a good name for something that reduces casting cost. Like he's summoning other members of the pack. That's a good name. That helps.
That makes sense.
Crowlin' Horde, like who knows?
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
But Howler helps. That's a good name.
Double block here from Davis. Looking to try to get this Advocate off the battlefield. Boggemes will start by sacrificing a clue. Tracker will get a little bit bigger. Can't forget that one's attacking as well. All right, Advocate's going to take care of the Crassus. Reflector Mage will be left behind. Looks like Davis will take 11 in this exchange. He falls down to 4. The follow-up here for Boggemes is another Tireless Tracker.
Remember, on the discount here because of the Howler.
Spell Queller is going to come down, take care of the Tireless Tracker. Davis falls down to 3. Boggemes with a land for the turn. You have Myakos, gets him a clue. Advocate also on the discount from the Howler. Anything left to be done here? Kyle will just pass. Let's go to Jim as the transformation of the Duskwatch Recruiter will take place. Jim will draw a card. Sylvan Advocate. Just don't think he has enough life. Yep. He's going to concede the game. So Kyle Boggemes is going to win game number 1 here over Jim Davis. The Bant Company mirror thus far goes to the player on the right. As we will look at each player's sideboard, we will start with Jim Davis, number 15 on our Player of the Year leaderboard, with his 2 aerial volleys, a Dispel, a Summary Dismissal, a Tameo Field Researcher, a copy of Vastwood Seer, along with 3 Tireless Trackers, 2 Declaration in Stone, 2 Tragic Arrogance, a big one in the mirror, and 2 Negates.
Yeah, it's the setup for the games that go a little bit longer here. The Negates, the copies of Tragic Arrogance, the Tireless Tracker, the Nissa, maybe the extra copy of Tameo. He's got a lot of stuff to set up for a longer game here. Probably going to cut some of the less impactful cheap creatures.
For Boggemes, he's got Nochetide's Command of Declaration in Stone, a Void Grafter, 3 negates, 2 more copies of Lambhold Pacifist, another Tireless Tracker on the board. He's got his own Thalia, along with 2 Summary Dismissals and 3 Aerial Volleys of his own.
Not surprising that Boggemes has a lot less in the sideboard for this matchup than Jim, because Boggemes is doing a lot of his work game 1. I think you're going to see the additional copy of Tireless Tracker. I think the negates are worth bringing in, possibly the Thalia, but he's going to be sideboarding a lot lighter.
Well, there you do see the options there for both players. Davis had a Thalia to start. It looked pretty good. He just was not able to fully capitalize on it, so we'll see how game number 2 goes. But while we wait, we will learn a little bit more about SCG Game Night, the very popular promotion which you can bring to your local store in a myriad of ways. And in the month of July, we got some awesome stuff.
Again, go.starcgames.com/game night for more information. Find the game night closest to you. Every month we come out with a new kit of pins and foils we send to the stores. Stores then run game night any day of the week, any format they want, just to get players in the store on a regular basis for some fun and friendly magic. The July kit is going on right now, the Snipcaster Mage. We got a couple more coming down the pipeline here in August. We got, I forget the name exactly, there it is, Young Burrowmancer. And then in September we have Bone Chewer Giant. Again, go.starcgames.com/game night. Find the game night closest to you. And stores, contact your Starcy Games in-store play representative. If you are not signed up for game night, get signed up as soon as possible.
Old Bone Chewer.
Yeah.
You know what that's a play off of?
Bonar Giant, or Bone Chewer Giant or something.
Bonar Giant? You think that's a card?
Could be. Probably not.
It's Stone Hewer Giant.
What is that, from Lorwyn Block?
Actually, yes, it is.
Yeah, that's why I don't know it.
Yeah. Old Stone Hughes.
Took a little sabbatical during that time.
Searches up a little equipment ski poos. You see these players shuffling very quick. So we will take this moment very quickly to learn a little bit more about Jim Davis. He'll be on the play here, the 32-year-old, the captain of Team MetaGameGurus.com, who is a DJ. He loves himself some hockey, and he won the 2015 SCG Players Championship. 11 Open Top 8s, 2 wins, 2 Invitational Top 8s, but really, and we've known Jim for a really long time, I think now with how he has taken his approach to Magic, winning that Players Championship last year, forming this team, MGG has been dominant on the SCG Tour. This might be the best he's ever been.
And I spoke to him in between rounds just now, and he was mentioning to me that when the Players' Championship rolled around last year, he kind of had in his head that might have been his last large event ever, that he was considering moving on to game design or just doing something else with his life. But the combination of the win at the Players' Championship, plus the forming of the team and the amount of success that they've had, he's more committed now than ever.
Streams a lot.
Usually when you're 1 foot out the door, that's when you get your big tournament finish.
Oh, that's what happens every time.
Every time.
It's almost weird how it happens, because there are so many stories of that. I have it happening to myself personally. My last Pro Tour was supposed to be Pro Tour Kyoto. I didn't even touch for the tournament because I was just pretty over it.
Right.
And now here I am doing this. Jim on 6 cards right now. He'll keep. He'll scry. That's not a look of happiness. That looks like a tough scry.
Yeah. Well, especially on the heels of game 1, where Jim got off to a great start and just didn't hit enough land drops to seal the deal. On 6 cards, looks like his hand is pretty land light by the looks of things.
It looks like a reluctant keep. Here we go. His planes to start. Boggemes will draw. Davis will draw. Picked up a forest. That's what he left on top.
Okay, so his hand has 3 lands now and a Collected Company, but no blue mana.
Got it.
No way you can scry to the bottom on 2 lands with a Collected Company. You got to keep a land that makes mana, even if it's not the one you are exactly looking for.
Prairie Stream there for Boggemes. That's the land Jim Davis is looking for. He'll draw. Spell Queller. There's Canopy Vista. Let's go Kyle's way. Looks like he picked up a Duskwatch Recruiter for the turn. There's a forest. This. Oof.
Oofa.
Thalia. Give Jim a little taste of his own medicine. He drew a Lambhold Pacifist. He'll have to play that. Pass the turn back. Boggemes will draw.
That is the 1 sideboarded copy of Thalia.
Yeah.
For reference.
That's a brutal beating. There's a forest. It's a main phase Collected Company. Top 6 cards here for Kyle. He found a Nissa and a tireless tracker, which means he's going to search for forest.
And you can see Boggemes, both game 1 and post board, set up to play a very long card advantage, attrition-y sort of game. Seems like the right place to be in the mirror match.
Remember, he's 5-0 in the mirror.
And I think on the cusp of going to 6-0 here.
Yeah. Davis will draw. Duskwatch Recruiter. And his opening hand looks like it had 2 collected companies in it. I mean, I don't think you can scry to the bottom. I don't think you can send it back.
I think Jim's keep was correct. I believe the scry was correct. But this just happens sometimes.
Yep.
It's just cost of doing business.
And Davis might be thinking no spell, transform my pacifist into a butcher.
All
have
right.
a 4/4 on the battlefield. Try to represent something like Jamoka's command, but it looks like he's going to play Duskwatch Recruiter. Enters the battlefield, tap, pass that turn back. Go over to Kyle Boggemes. He'll draw a card. Yapamaya coasts the draw. We know he has a forest in hand from Nissa. He also has a copy of Prairie Stream in hand. He'll play a main phase Collected Company. Top 6. Reflector Mage, Tireless Tracker.
We're done here.
I think so. We will play out the home stretch. And Kyle will play a land here in just a moment and get not 1 but 2 clues from the Prairie Stream. Well, we are just about set as he's going to come across with these creatures. Attack for 8, Davis down to 9. What do you think? Prairie Stream off the top?
Yeah, just for the full rubbins.
Oh, Tamio. Can't do anything with that one either. Jim will show the hand, and he'll be extending the other one in just a moment here. As Kyle Boggemes is going to win this match here over Jim Davis, 2-0. The Bat Company Mirror goes to Kyle. That makes him 6-0 in the Bat Company Mirror this weekend, and that'll probably move him into first place of this tournament. It's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, and you can see Jim and Kyle going over that hand in game number 2 there, with Jim debating on the scry. I think he's hit with Collected Company in hand and 2 lands. I don't think you can scry lands to the bottom. Kyle kind of gave a nod of agreement there. I think he's agreeing with Jim. Yeah, you leave that one on top, and a percentage of the time it doesn't break the right way, and this is one of those times.
What can you do?
Happens. And listen, if you're 10-0 in a tournament,